Hey everyone, so this is Cradle of Shadows. It's easily one of the most difficult dungeons in the game. Anybody who has a list of the roughest dungeons, I'm sure this is in the top 3. It starts out in the spider caves. There's 2 bosses down here. This is the first one, Cythera. As you go through the caves, you're going to notice these braziers. You walk up to them, you hit YB. That'll light the brazier. It puts this little aura up. You stay in the aura, you don't take any damage. And when you're out of the aura, you take some damage. That damage is much more significant on Veteran. Throughout the event, you'll notice she does the red spine thing. That signifies that you need to interrupt her by hitting both triggers. If you don't interrupt her, she'll let go of some lightning that does a moderate amount of damage. You'll notice there's 3 braziers in this room. She puts the light out periodically throughout the event, and you just move to the next one. Pretty straightforward. On vet level, you can't damage anything that's not in the light, so you need to make sure you pull all the spiders and the boss into the brazier light there. But they let you get away with it on normal. You'll notice we finished the event here out in the middle. Pretty straightforward though. You know, you stay out of the red auras, follow the mechanics, kill the spiders. So this is Cophidian. She's the boss of the spider caves in Cradle of Shadows. It's a lot of mechanics for the second boss in a dungeon. So I mean, this is one mechanic after the next after the next. But that's how it goes in Cradle of Shadows, and you know, that's why everyone struggles. People like to just kind of DPS through things, and on this one you can't. Normally you can get away with some things, but on Vet you have to follow the mechanics on this one. So you'll notice she teleports, then you need to close the gap and interrupt her. Now, the easiest way to interrupt her on this part is at range, but more often than not you'll find that the melee go up there and interrupt. If you don't, you can see there it does quite a bit of damage. It killed that guy. Then you have to block and then roll dodge, or at least move out of that aura. So that's a lot to do. You know, close the gap, interrupt, block, and then roll dodge. That's, you know, 3 large shots in a row that you got to avoid. Plus closing the gap. So it's, you know, you're just consistent on this one. So the other thing going on here, you'll notice around the room there's a bunch of braziers. Second one just went out, and a third. So yeah, at this point you notice the ads starting to pile up, and you can see right there there's a Gloom Wraith, and he's invised. There's actually 2 right there. The longer those Gloom Wraiths are up, the more beetles they pop. If that was on Vet, we definitely would have gotten overrun by beetles right there with 3 braziers down. That can't go on for long. Normally they let you get away with a little more, like I say. But if you stay on top of the mechanics, you know, keep the braziers lit, keep the Gloom Wraiths down, you know, keep the pattern up. As long as you interrupt that thing, this one isn't so bad. It gives you an idea of who you're working with, you know. Especially if you do a pickup group, you know, with the activity finder trying to do Cradle of Shadows. That's difficult to do sometimes, even on normal. But if they can get by this one, usually they can get by the next one. This has a pretty nice foreshadow mechanic. You'll notice when she ports, she lets 4 of those red waves out. They put that in this one to show you the mechanic for a later boss, but he pops a lot more and they do a lot more damage. So this is the Votary of Veladrath. It's a pretty simple fight for a pretty complicated dungeon. You know, spider ads, big rings on the ground. Oh, how we all love those. You know, you dodge the ring, you kill the ads. Does a forward-facing poison spit. You can interrupt it though, you know, by hitting the triggers. See, that's not a bad fight. You need a giant spider for a giant spider cave, right? Veladrath doesn't really count, half lady, half centaur spider thing. So this is Draenos Valador. He's the second to last boss in the dungeon. Most people's adventures end in Cradle of Shadows with Draenos. He's got a lot of mechanics. Really, the event is just one phase after the next, It goes in the same order. You'll notice as the video plays through. He starts out, he does a spin attack. You know, yellow spines pop up, signifying a block. So if you block that, you're good, and if not, you die. And as the tank goes down in an event that's most mechanic heavy as this, you start to get behind, and it usually means the end of the adventure. But after that, he picks out the person who has aggro, and he pins them down. You'll know this phase is about to happen because he runs around the room and hits everybody once, and then he pins down the person who has aggro. This is usually a good time to make sure you've established aggro. You'll see there, he hits everybody once. Yeah, and then he pins me down. So for this event, you'll notice the red spines on the two ads that pop. That means they need to be interrupted. If you interrupt them both and run away, you're supposed to be able to get out of it, but you'll notice there, he still hit me anyway. I got a mile away from him and he still hit me. So you can see that even if your group is on point and they interrupt both those shades, it's not guaranteed. You still got to get out of there. Again, that gets a lot of people. Having a tank on this one that knows what they're doing is very helpful. Again, there's a spin attack. Even on normal, that's going to hit you pretty good. So the next phase is this one here. He turns red and goes invulnerable. At that point, you want to aggro him, you know, taunt him. You can run him around the room. When he gets close to one of the ads, he sucks him up and kills him. There's also the red waves on the ground during that phase. And those red waves will do quite a bit of damage as well. Yeah, it's just the same thing again and again and again. So once you get the pattern down and you know how the mechanics work, it's not too bad. You just stay persistent, keep following the mechanics. You keep rezzing your buddies. And you'll make it through to Veladrath. You'll notice there, I wasn't getting a lot of outside heals. You could really get a look at how much damage that actually does while you're pinned down, you know, if you're not getting healed. The last phase is coming up. It's when he hits about 30%. Those red waves are consistent at that point. So you really need to burn him down, because those waves will tear your group up. As the tank, they're actually not very noticeable. Even on vet, they're not too bad on a beefy character, but those DPSs and those healers are gonna get torn up.
Don't keep Our Lady waiting.
When he pins you down, a good way to guarantee that you're gonna get far enough away is just to roll dodge twice in a row. You know, just try to maintain your stamina throughout the event so that you have the stamina to do that. So you'll see here, he's hit 30%, so while the red waves phase is done, they're still up. Right there. And now they're consistent, so we've got to kill him quick.
I'm just drift you away. Who will be the weakling? Goodbye now.
So this is the room right before Veladrath. You'll see there's an astronaut on the ground. He's got a torch for an arm, and as my group mate there picks it up, he now has a torch, and you can see the light around him. This is a foreshadowing mechanic. It's showing you that when the astronauts die during the event, you can pick the arms up, and then when you get banished to the catacombs, you'll have a torch to lead your group through them without taking a whole lot of damage. There's quite a few mechanics in this event. So throughout the event, she'll grab someone, whoever has the highest ultimate, and she'll feed on their ultimate. This will pop balls that float around the room, red, blue, and green. If she were to grab my ultimate, it would be red balls because I have more hit points than anything else. So if those red balls float around, they hurt everyone, you know, that runs into them, unless I run into them because it was my ultimate. It'll recharge my ultimate. She has a one-shot kill. The yellow spines, you want to pop up and block that. As the tank, if you don't block that, you're going to die, and if you die, your group's going to die. This event is mechanic heavy, one of the more difficult events in the game, so you have to block that every time. So you'll see we dropped into the catacombs here. There's 4 of us in one room with 2 torches since we got them both. Now in Vet, this is a little different. You drop, instead of 4 into one room, it's 2 groups of 2. Also, some of the doors are locked on Vet, so it's a little more difficult to get through the maze. But other than that, you can see there's ads that are popping in the darkness and running at us, so you have those to contend with, and as well as the maze itself. And then each of these little archways has red panels and blank panels, and the red panels have little spike strips that slow you down, so it takes a little doing getting through. As you can see, she's eating somebody's ultimate there. And there's the one-shot kill there, me blocking it. Now you can see we got through this phase pretty quick. The astronauts are already down. We actually killed them a little too fast because I was not able to get that astronaut arm. Again, on normal, that's not a big deal, but on Vet, that would kill the group. You know, only having one torch on Vet means that only one group has the light at all. You know, the other group's doomed. I mean, they die automatically. But on normal, it's not as big a deal. You know, the 4 of us will follow him. It just slows us down a little bit. I like to try and slow down the ads as we run through. That way, they don't attack. So there's a mechanic coming up at the end. It's really the most difficult mechanic in the fight. She says, "Don't move a muscle," which, big surprise. At that point, you don't move. And then she goes up in the air. When she goes up in the air, you'll notice your controller rattling. When it starts rattling, you want to hold down your left trigger. This is the way I do it. Then when it stops rattling, you're going to wait for it to rattle again. And the second rattle is just real short, just a real quick rattle. At that time, you need to hit roll dodge. So on the first rattle, I hit the left trigger. Second rattle, I hit the A button. To do this right, you need to hit that roll dodge as immediately when it starts rattling. If you wait toward the end of that rattle and it's a short rattle, you'll still fail. And here it is. You'll see some of my group mates didn't take the advice, but they're pretty self-sustaining, so while they're getting hammered, they're healing up pretty good. And here it goes. You'll see everybody else failed the mechanic. One died. That's how it goes usually, and again on Vet, that's a lot worse. On Vet, that would have killed all 3 of them for sure. But that's Veladrath. Despite the rumors, she's not so bad. It's really just that last mechanic that usually gets people. And that wraps up Cradle of Shadows. Thanks for watching, guys.